Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the No Silicast Podcast, hosted at Podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, September 14th, 2025, and this is show number 1062. You may remember a few months ago when I told you about our adventures trying to add a portable CarPlay screen to our daughter Lindsay's 2014 Subaru. I don't want to go through the whole story again, but the experiment failed for several reasons. First of all, the vent mount wouldn't work on her car because it totally blocked all of the air that should blow at the driver, and she lives where it gets really hot, so that was important to her. The suction cup mount that they provided didn't work either because it simply fell off in the heat. Now, you may remember I bought a nifty magnetic mount from a company called Corse Motorsports, and it was tailored to be mounted to a screw on the side of the built-in head unit on her model of Subaru. But for the life of us, and by us I mean Steve, we couldn't break that screw loose, so we were never able to test that mount. Finally, the Lampto display that I bought had terrible lag when making phone calls. Other than that, the whole thing was awesome. Well, I bought the same screen for her husband Nolan, and it actually worked out for him in his car. We were able to mount it in the passenger vent, so that problem was solved, and it turns out he doesn't talk on the phone very often, so the lag wasn't an issue either. The odd thing about the phone call lag is that not one of the reviews mentioned it. I still wanted to get a CarPlay screen for Lindsay, but as I read reviews of other screens, nobody on those was talking about a phone call lag either, good or bad. For months, whenever I had time to kill, I'd read about different screens, trying to figure out which one to get her. I even watched YouTube videos of people doing reviews, which isn't something I normally like to do. In the absence of any guidance on the phone lag issue, I was able to eliminate a lot of models after all of my research. Many of the CarPlay screens solve the mounting problem by having them on a stand that you put up on your dashboard. Now, I don't know about other states and countries, but according to the California Department of Motor Vehicles, that's illegal. You're only allowed to block a 7-inch square in the lower corner of the passenger or rear window, or a 5-inch square on the lower corner of the driver's side window, or a 5-inch square in the center uppermost portion of your windshield, but that's only for an electronic toll payment device. So not only is it illegal to mount a device blocking your view, I think it's just plain common sense that you shouldn't put it there. So a stand is out, suction cups are out, and vent mounts are out. The only good solution is that Corse Motorsports magnetic mount that I already bought. I talked to Nolan, and he has one of those bits for a drill that's designed just to let you drill out a screw, and he said he would conquer it if I bought a new display. Well, that narrowed my search down to displays that could support a round magnetic mount. Most of them had rectangular areas with little clip slots, but I found a couple that fit the bill. I ended up purchasing the 9-inch Eonon CarPlay and Android Auto display for $70 on Amazon. The setup of the new display was identical to the previous one. Throw some power to it over USB-C, connect sound to the car's audio system with an aux cable, turn it on, connect it to your Bluetooth settings, and boom, you've got wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. It could not have been easier. I tested it before leaving our house to go see Lindsay, and phone calls had very little lag, and that was great news. Now, drilling out the screw in the side of the head unit turned out to be a lot harder to remove than any of us had anticipated. Steve and Nolan ended up pulling the head unit out of the car after disconnecting a whole bunch of connectors. Now, this gave Nolan a better angle to drill straight down into the stubborn screw with all of his might. I wasn't there for this part, but Steve said it was touch and go whether he would succeed, but Nolan stayed at it and he won the battle. Once he had the recalcitrant screw out, they put a new screw in and were able to attach the Corse Motorsports magnetic mount to the side of the head unit and make it look super clean and neat on Lindsay's car. Now, the guys were pretty much done with the hard part of the project, or so we thought, but before they buttoned up the dash, we decided to make it a wee bit harder. When Lindsay bought her car, she had the dealer install an aftermarket backup camera. They mounted it to her license plate in the back, and then they ran the wires all the way up to the front windshield where they mounted the saddest little display you've ever seen. Remember that 5-inch requirement for the driver's side of the windshield? It had no trouble fitting in that legal zone. Not only was it tiny at maybe like 3 inches diagonal, if I round up, it was super dim. Technically, it was better than no camera at all, but just barely. The CarPlay screen I bought came with a new backup camera, as many of them do. I told the boys about it, hoping that maybe there was a way they could just tap into the existing camera's wires and not have to reroute them, and then Lindsay could have that beautiful 9-inch display for the rear camera's view. Oh, you know there's no way that worked, right? Of course, there were a different number of wires, the connectors were not all the same, And the idea of the boys having to route those wires the full length of the car sounded insurmountable. But then they made a crucial mistake. They plugged the camera into the display and they saw how gorgeous the view was. They were motivated and decided to make it happen. I'm going to fast forward quite a bit, but after 5.5 hours of feeding wires through the head unit, across and under the steering column, down to the left, the bottom left of the driver's seat, under the carpeting, past the front back seats in the hatch area, up through the D-pillar and through some bendy tubes to enter the hatch, they were done. And you know what? It's freaking amazing. I can't believe how hard they worked on it, but they seem to enjoy working together, solving each problem with their complementary skills. The display sticks well to the magnetic mount from Course Motorsports and can be set to landscape or portrait orientation. I used it in portrait orientation when I was driving her car because my prescription sunglasses are perfectly polarized to make the screen black in landscape. Luckily, Lindsay's sunglasses seem to work with it in both orientations. That's what you get when you pay for Ray-Bans, I guess. The backup camera looks fantastic, and as of right now, she's not quite sure which orientation she'll stick with. The only thing left to do is attach some cable tie-downs and route the cables to clean up the look once she decides which way she likes it. Her aux and power cables both come out of her center armrest, so right now it's still a little bit messy if you look at the pictures. The bottom line is that it's quite possible to add a CarPlay screen to an aging car and bring it up to the modern age, and even add a great backup camera. The in-on 9-inch display was only $70, and I just bought it about a month ago, yet now it's no longer showing as available. How's that doing for a terrible end to a review? But I gotta tell you, these weirdly named companies seem almost to be placeholders, because I found out what looks to be an identical screen with identical accessories and that same circular magnetic mount from a company called, Avilet, also for $70 on Amazon. I can't vouch for this one personally, but I bet it would be just as good. I would also suggest that you pay someone to mount the rear camera for you if you get one. I'm just so happy that Lindsay finally has good CarPlay, can make phone calls with Siri, and has a backup camera to keep everyone safer. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I seem to start a lot of my articles with the phrase, "You may remember," and this is another one of those times. You may remember back in 2022 when the delightful Bill Reveal helped me rebuild Podfeet.com from scratch with a different operating system, a new web server software, and more. My server was getting hammered and it was time for a big update. Now, my victory dance post showed how fast the new server was and how by moving the database to a dedicated server and increasing the capacity of my web server, all was good. Well, those are the good old days. A few months back, I was perusing the performance graphs for my web server at my hosting company, DigitalOcean, when I saw something that concerned me. Periodic episodes lasting an hour or more where my CPU was hitting 100%. I asked around a bit to see if anyone wanted to help me poke into this, and I got a few suggestions, but nothing particularly actionable. I really hated to lean on Bill again, and Bart is crazy busy these days, so I thought I'd try using AI to help me diagnose what could be happening. I used ChatGPT for this effort, and it was pretty fun. I know enough of what I'm doing to be able to mostly tell when I'm changing something versus just looking at something. So even knowing how often it returns incorrect answers, I was pretty confident I could keep from damaging anything if I followed the instructions it gave me. For example, the command cat is what you use when you want to look at the contents of a file. That's safe. But VI or nano, that would mean actually going in to edit a file. The command tail means to watch a log file that's changing in real time. Nothing destructive here. For the most part, I felt that ChatGPT was very helpful. We looked at a lot of logs, which suggested many possibilities that we were able to systematically eliminate, and I found the experience pretty instructive. That is, until at one point when it suggested I create this tiny little PHP file and drop it into some top-level directory. Now, I don't know how to read or write PHP, so I had no business following these instructions. But it looked like, a little hello world kind of thing, so I thought, what harm could that do? I tried to open Podfeet.com in a browser at its instructions to that URL with that little PHP file, and instead I got redirected to beds.com. I raced back to ChatGPT, told it what had happened, and my little friend rang the 3-alarm fire bell. It yelled, "Oh, wooga, wooga," and it told me I'd been hacked, my whole system was ruined, I should shut the server down, burn all my documentation, maybe join a convent. I asked, could it be that little file you just had me put up there? And ChatGPT said, oh, yeah, that could be it. Maybe just delete that file. And deleting the little file fixed the problem. Well, after that, I was a lot more cautious when ChatGPT would tell me to do things. Whatever it told me to do, I'd ask it, is this safe? Or what could go wrong if this is a badly formatted thing? With that prompt, it often came back with something like, yeah, that could really mess things up. You want to try a less dangerous path? Why, yes, I do. After many, many hours, we ran into a curious problem. ChatGPT asked me to run some commands that I knew were harmless, and yet I couldn't run them. The first one we came across was when ChatGPT suggested I run the command strace to monitor some log files. My server responded with command not found. No worries, we'll just install it. ChatGPT suggested we use the Yum package manager to install strace, and think of a package manager like an app store. But when I tried that, I got a surprising result. It returned CentOS stream AppStream errors during downloading metadata for repository AppStream and could not resolve host mirrorlist.centos.org. Well, my operating system was CentOS Stream 8, so why couldn't it see the repository at centos.org? It turns out, unbeknownst to me, that CentOS of all versions had been deprecated for more than a year. When they fully deprecated it, they shut down access to all of the package managers. There was no way I'd be able to install any new commands. More importantly, I needed to get off this operating system. I put out the call to the Programming by Stealth channel in our Slack and didn't get much of a reaction. I think it's kind of like when the teacher starts to scan the classroom to look for someone to call on, and everybody just ducks down and pretends to be doing something else really important. Eventually, Bill Reveal said something along the lines of, I can help if need be if none of the young bucks step up. He's such a peach. Well, not too long after that, I interviewed Ted Bushman for Chit Chat Across the Pond. You might remember where we were able to learn about his work as a professor at a technical college. After we finished recording, we talked for a long time about all kinds of things. I'm not sure how I worked it into the conversation, but I ended up telling him about my server woes and how I needed to migrate to a supported version of Linux. He got really excited and he said he'd love to help me. I am not making this up. He was excited. He teaches server admin and networking, and he sounded like he knew what he was doing, so I gladly said yes. We set a play date for a few weeks in the future to start working on the migration. As I awaited our scheduled play date, I was out of the glow of the fun of talking real time to Teg, and I started thinking, what do I really know about this guy? I mean, he's literally some guy I met on the internet who sounded smart and knowledgeable. What did I really know about this guy? Would he even show up? Does he actually know what he's talking about? Now, here's the funny thing. At the same time that I was doubting the wisdom of going ahead with him, Teg was having his own doubts. This will sound funny as you hear more of the story, but he had this huge fear that he would tell me to do something that ended up completely horrible and irreparably borking up my server. He was more worried than I was. Luckily, both of our fears were unfounded. A few days before our play date, Teg sent me a huge document with not just an outline of a plan, but step-by-step instructions on how to do it. I mean, like every single command I was going to need to type. I knew right then that I was in good hands. He sent me the document as a PDF, but I immediately converted it to a Markdown document so I could do things like put little checkboxes next to each line item as I completed each step. One of the reasons Teg was trepidatious, and he was right to be fearful, was that I hadn't told him hardly anything about my current setup, nor what operating system I was even hoping to migrate to. All he knew was that I was running WordPress on CentOS, and I think he knew that I used DigitalOcean for my servers. His directions were so good that with a little help from the internet, I was able to complete the entire first 2 sections of his document all on my own before we even got together. One of the magical things about technology today is the ability to stand up virtual machines with literally a click of a button and a credit card. Step 1 of Teg's instructions said to create a new droplet, which is what DigitalOcean calls their virtual machines because they love their little water analogies. He suggested I use Ubuntu, but since that's a Debian variant of Linux, and I was used to the Red Hat variants, I chose to go with Rocky Linux. Now, to be perfectly honest, I couldn't tell a Red Hat Linux from a Debian Linux if you threatened to harm Kepler, but that sounded all nerdy when I said it, right? Didn't I sound cool? Now, luckily, Teg appears to be agnostic when it comes to his Nixes, so he didn't care which way I went. His instructions to set up the new OS included installing tools using the package manager apt or apt, but Rocky Linux uses the package manager DNF. It was pretty easy to keep an AI running by my side to do the translations for me between the 2 package managers. I made the decision to go with Rocky months ago, but it made me particularly happy because I just finished rereading the Andy Weir book, Project Hail Mary, in which one of the heroes is named Rocky. If you haven't read it, drop everything. I mean, stop listening and go make that happen. You got to go read this book. It's fantastic. Weir is the author of The Martian, and now they're making Hail Mary into a movie that's coming out next year. It's going to be fantastic. Anywho, before getting together with Teg, following his amazing instructions, I was able to create the droplet, install the web server Nginx, and do some configuration stuff and even install some helpful tools that Teg recommended. I was very proud of my little self, and Teg appropriately patted me on my little pumpkin head when he saw all of my progress. I stopped at the next section in the document, which was starting to deal with WordPress. We had a decision to make here. Since something is hammering my server, which is why I was talking to ChatGPT in the first place, and the only information we did get from that is that the top processes that are getting hit are related to WordPress. It's called PHP-FPM. Teg was thinking maybe we should set up WordPress from scratch. Bart had recently moved his servers, and he thought just copying over the whole WordPress directory might be fine. Now, remember, we still don't know what's actually going wrong or what was going wrong with my server, so it sounded like a possible way to go. Now, remember, Teg had close to no information about how I had set up other folders for documents that show up on my website, things like my travel logs and the PBS index that Dorothy maintains. And Bart, on the other hand, had the luxury of knowing I had more to my site than the root WordPress directory. When Teg and I got on our play date, we went back and forth with the pros and cons of starting from scratch or just copying everything over. I was kind of a fan of doing it from scratch. You know how I like a clean install. But in the end, we decided to copy over the WordPress directory and all of the other files and just see how it goes. And we have a contingency plan to build it from scratch at a later date if we find that to be necessary. For the nerdlings listening, we copied my entire directory from the old droplet to the new one using rsync, and it was wicked fast. I think the infrastructure between the virtual private cloud services on DigitalOcean is a big part of that, and the rsync protocol is super fast too. Now, once we were in the thick of it, I created a new Markdown file and I took copious notes as we went along. Teg said he had never seen anyone do such good documentation while learning, and I again felt chuffed at the praise. One of the things that made this whole process so joyful was that Teg was a terrific instructor, or is a terrific instructor, I should say. I know this is his occupation, but not all teachers are good teachers. He was great at explaining what we were doing, telling me what to type, often character by character, since every space and hyphen means something, and yet he went at a perfect pace for me to keep up. We worked really well together. At one point, we wanted to see if my website would render on the new Rocky installation. We hadn't yet flipped over DNS to point to Rocky, but there's a little file on your Mac called hosts, and you can trick it into changing your destination when you type in a URL. You could say change podfeet.com to go to lets-talk.ie if you wanted to by changing the host file to tell it to go to Bart's server IP address instead when you type podfeet.com. But that would be weird. For our first test of the new installation, we pointed to podfeet.com to the new IP address for Rocky. Unsurprisingly, it didn't work on the first try. Nginx, the web server, returned a permissions error, but at least it was serving up the generic web page for Nginx. Now, this was probably the first time I saw Teg actually get stuck for a while and not immediately know what to do. He eventually figured out that it was security-enhanced Linux enforcing some security policies, and he figured out how to fix it. When he finally got the permissions error fixed, we got a new error that said, error establishing database connection. Well, I know that one. That's the classic error you see when your WordPress and your database aren't communicating. This was possibly my favorite moment of our whole time working together because Teg's reaction to seeing a new error message was to throw his arms up in the air to celebrate and say, yay! Because it was a different error message and it meant he'd conquered the previous one. You got to know, this is a person who loves playing this game. Now, one of the scariest and yet easiest things to do is to flip the switch on DNS. One wrong move, and when people type in podfeet.com, there will be nothing there. I've done it many times, but I don't think I'll ever have the nerve to do it without someone holding my hand. When Teg and I changed what's called the A record in DNS to switch from the old server I'd named Gez to the new Rocky server's IP address, I held my breath. But as you can see in the show notes, the web traffic dropped to 0 on Gez right around the same time it fired up on Rocky, and nobody knew that all of this had happened but me and Teg. Now, the bottom line is that with Teg's superhuman efforts, podfeet.com was completely rebuilt and moved between servers, and you probably didn't even notice. That, of course, delights me, but what delights me even more is what Teg posted on Mastodon immediately after we were done. He wrote, Worked the afternoon helping at Podfeet with tech stuff. What an awesome documenter of things. Great experience. Would do again. 5 stars. Also, go check out her podcast at podfeet.com. Isn't he awesome? He's the best. Anyway, when we realized we were finished, he was actually a little bit sad that we didn't have any excuse to play any longer. I told him there's a good chance that since we dragged my entire WordPress installation from the old server, there's still hope that whatever was ailing it on CentOS came along to the new server. I will probably still end up needing more help. And Teg looked delighted at the idea as he started musing on what scripts he would write to try to figure out where the problem could be. If he's good, I may let him do this as his reward. I'd be remiss if I didn't give Bart a big shout out at the end here. Just a few weeks before Teg and I got together, Bart moved lets-talk.ie to a new server too, as I mentioned earlier, and he took copious notes along the way. He gave us several documents ahead of time, and we used the one on how to set up a new cert and to get it to auto-update. The rest of it looked like Klingon to me before we started, so I ignored the other documents. However, now that I've been through the process with Teg, Bart's other documents have been very helpful. I don't understand all of them, but I've set up automatic OS updates, and I may have successfully set up email sending, and I've got the time zone on my server set to Los Angeles. Many thanks to Bart, and especially to Teg for doing yeoman's work, helping me move my server, and for being a delightful human all around. But that's not the end of the story. Teg and I forgot to test at least one thing: whether I could write new posts with embedded images on Podfeet.com. 2 days after we did our victory laps at the success of our adventure, I tried to push this very article up to Podfeet.com from Mars Edit, and I got an error saying I couldn't upload the image. I alerted Teg right away, and we started to noodle a couple of ideas. I'm not going to drag you through all of the gory details, but there were at least 2 problems. As I perused my notes from when the glorious Bill Reveal helped me in 2022, I found where he had me change a configuration file to allow large file uploads, and that matched the advice that Teg was giving me today. While that definitely had to be done, it didn't solve the problem. Now, I'm not the knowledgeable person here, but even I thought to check the file permissions for my uploads folder in the WordPress directory. It all looked hunky-dory to me. It showed me that my username had read-write-execute privileges. But pushing images to a WordPress directory isn't actually executed by my user. There's a tool called php-fpm that I mentioned earlier, and it controls the users, and it was set by default by the author of php-fpm to the user Apache. Well, I'm not running the Apache web server anymore. I'm running Nginx. We did a few more things to create a group that included my user and Nginx, and then we changed php-fpm config files to match, and now everything was going to work. And finally, I was able to bring you this post exactly 45 minutes before showtime tonight. Now, Teg suggested that my initial fears about some guy on the internet helping me were well-founded, but you know what? He was there for me to clean things up when I needed him, so he's still my hero in the books. Well, it's time to celebrate the heroes of the Podfeet podcast who contribute month after month through Patreon with only very rare thanks. When the pandemic hit, the patronage naturally went way down, but these particular heroes joined up even during the hardest of times. Our 5-year contributors from 2020 are Troy, Marty, Ryan, Zohar, John, and Richard. Thank you so much for your continued support of the Podfeet podcast. Well, it's that time of the week again. My favorite time of the week. It's Security Bits with Bart Busschots. How are you doing today, Bart?
I'm doing good, despite what I mastodoned or tooted or whatever we say this morning. The wind is so strong that all that rain on those radar images blew away, and I had a lovely cycle.
Even with all the wind, huh?
I chose very well-sheltered routes until I was going home, and then I if I'd had a sail, I would have been home to like yesterday. I would have gone time traveling.
Yikes. Well, before we dig in, I want to remind the audience that Bart does 2 really terrific podcasts on his own. He does Let's Talk Apple and Let's Talk Photography. Talk Photography isn't about gear and stuff. It's about the art and craft of photography, and it's always a really good listen. It's sometimes more philosophical, more inspirational. It's a really great show. But I, in particular, really like Let's Talk Apple. He does it once a month, and it's kind of a top-level view of what's gone in the last month for Apple. It's about the lawsuits that he hates talking about, but you can't not talk about. It's got HR news. It's got top stories. He just covers everything. And he covers it in a way that's delightful, of course, turns of phrases, everything he does there. I just love this month's episode, the one I just finished listening to. I'm always a little bit late getting started, but they're both really good, and you can get them at lets-talk.ie. And I did all that off the cuff, Bart.
I'm extremely impressed. That was wonderful.
I wish you guys could see Bart, because he immediately kind of puts his head down because praise is harder for him to take. So I won't demand any reaction from him, but I want to make sure you guys remember that those shows are all out there and they're really, really good. They're just fantastic. So go give a listen, subscribe.
Thank you.
All right, now we can dig in.
Right, well, I'm going to start with a little bit of a rewind. So 2 weeks ago when we were talking, we noticed a pattern. We were talking about nasty data breaches, and one word kept coming up: Salesforce. This was through a Salesforce breach. And then literally the day after we published, Brian Krebs posted a big expose explaining how it all hangs together. And then Bleeping Computer got the bit between their teeth and did a bit more digging. So we now know a lot more. And it isn't Salesforce that was breached. It was a third-party add-on you can choose to integrate with your Salesforce called SalesLoft, which hoovers up your Salesforce data, throws it into an LLM, and in theory creates really cool lead emails that you can spam people with. It's like, you were once our customer. We'd like to offer you this bloody-blah thing that our AI thinks you'd absolutely positively love, and we'll write it to you in a tone our AI thinks you'll love. It's not a tool that makes me happy. So the fact that it was also a security train wreck is not a good thing. And what was happening is that people who were customers of Salesforce and who chose to add the optional SalesLoft plugin, for want of a better term, integration, I guess, more broadly. Well, the attackers were able to break SalesLoft, which gave them an access point into that same customer's Salesforce, which gave them an access point into everything else that same customer also integrated with Salesforce. Now, Salesforce's job is to be a customer relationship management system and to sell things. It's almost always connected back to something else that is actually like the storefront or the organization itself. So then they could pivot back into the original customer. And that's where the data breaches were.
Oh my gosh.
So hop, boom.
So your notes say that it was a hacked GitHub account belonging to SalesLoft that started the whole chain of events?
That's how it all started.
Wow.
Yeah. So the attackers got into SalesLoft's Git account, were able to use that to get really deep into SalesLoft, were able to use that to get into SalesLoft customers, were able to use that to get into those same customers' Salesforce, and then from the same customer's Salesforce back to the customer's home base.
Yikes. Has this been remediated in any way? Anything patched? Or?
I believe SalesLoft went pink and pulled the plug.
Really? They just said, we're gone, we're out?
This AI bot is going quiet. Yeah.
Wow. Yikes.
And everyone has to update the secrets associated with their integrations, the nerdy under the hood stuff we're not going to dive into.
I bet some people at Salesforce said some really non-Girl Scout safe words about this.
Yes, because Salesforce are an extremely reputable company who have a long history of doing the right thing when bad things happen. So I imagine they had a lot of emails to write to their customers.
Yeah. Oof. Maybe give some free stuff away.
Oh, I hope so. Now, we get to do a deep dive. So we had a very shiny Apple event, and I'll be talking about it on Let's Talk Apple. Lots of cool new hardware. As of tomorrow, when we record this, we all get to update our OSs, even on our existing phones.
Yay, let the anarchy begin.
But yeah, for better or for worse, you may update tomorrow. You may choose to wait a week. Your choice. But a little after do we still call it a keynote if it's just a video they publish?
I think so.
But, yeah, whatever the thing where Tim Cook says things and his friends. A little after that published, and we all enjoyed all the coolness, there was a blog post published by Apple's security team telling us that, by the way, there's also something else really cool you're getting in all the A19 series chips, which covers the iPhone no name, just the plain old iPhone 17, the iPhone Air, and the iPhone 17's Pro. So all 4 models are covered by this because that A19 chip has some new brains, and iOS 26 has the other half of those brains, and together they are going to make it orders of magnitude more difficult for the grayware, spyware stuff we regularly talk about, like Pegasus and stuff.
Really?
So
Okay.
yes. So I'm actually going to let Apple. So the full blog post is kind of interesting. So it starts human-friendly, ends with a human-friendly conclusion, and in the middle is all the techie bits. And for being techie bits, they're still nerdy No Silicast friendly. So I'm not saying every No Silicast should read the whole blog post, because the middle bit is geeky, but it's accessible geeky. So I think a lot of our listeners can actually read it all and enjoy it all. But I'm going to give you just a little snippet from how do you feel about reading out loud, Alison? Because you're actually good at it.
You want me to read the whole thing? Which, it's like 7 paragraphs.
So they're all... Yeah, so there's 7 paragraphs that are not contiguous in Apple's document. I've just picked the 7 key paragraphs.
Okay, we're going to read this whole thing. Correct?
Please.
Okay.
Assuming you don't object.
No, I don't. I just wanted to make sure you weren't just asking me a snippet and then you'd be going, no, stop talking. Okay, here we go. Memory Integrity Enforcement, MIE, is the culmination of an unprecedented design and engineering effort spanning half a decade that combines the unique strengths of Apple silicon hardware with our advanced operating system security to provide industry-first, always-on memory safety protection across our devices without compromising our best-in-class device performance. We believe Memory Integrity Enforcement represents the most significant upgrade to memory safety in the history of consumer operating systems. There's never been a successful widespread malware attack against iPhone. The only system-level iOS attacks we observe in the wild come from mercenary spyware, which is vastly more complex than regular cybercriminal activity and consumer malware. Mercenary spyware is historically associated with state actors and uses exploit chains that cost millions of dollars to target a very small number of specific individuals and their devices. Although the vast majority of users will never be targeted in this way, these exploit chains demonstrate some of the most expensive, complex, and advanced attacker capabilities at any given time and are uniquely deserving of study as we work to protect iPhone users against even the most sophisticated threats. Known mercenary spyware chains used against iOS share a common denominator with those targeting Windows and Android. They exploit memory safety vulnerabilities, which are interchangeable, powerful, and exist throughout the industry. For Apple, improving memory safety is a broad effort that includes developing with safe languages and deploying mitigations at scale. We created Swift, an easy-to-use memory-safe language, which we employ for new code and targeted component rewrites. In iOS 15, we introduced calloc_type, a secure memory allocator for the kernel, followed in iOS 17 by its user-level counterpart, xzone_malloc. These secure allocators take advantage of knowing the type or purpose of allocations so that memory can be organized in a way that makes exploiting most memory corruption vulnerabilities inherently difficult. In 2018, we were the first in the industry to deploy pointer authentication codes, PAC, in the A12 Bionic chip to protect flow integrity in the presence of memory corruption. ARM published the Memory Tagging Extension, MTE, specification in 2019 as a tool for hardware to help find memory corruption bugs. MTE is, at its core, a memory tagging and tag checking system where every memory allocation is tagged with a secret. The hardware guarantees that later requests to access memory are granted only if the request contains the correct secret. If the secrets don't match, the app crashes and the event is logged. This allows developers to identify memory corruption bugs immediately as they occur. We conducted a deep evaluation and research process to determine whether MTE, as designed, would meet our goals for hardware-assisted memory safety. Our analysis found that, when employed as a real-time defensive measure, the original ARM MTE release exhibited weaknesses that were unacceptable to us, and we worked with ARM to address those shortcomings in the new Enhanced Memory Tagging Extension, EMTE specification, released in 2022. We believe memory safety protections need to be strictly synchronous, on by default and working continuously. In addition, for MTE to provide memory safety in an adversarial context, we would need to finely tune the operating system to defend the new semantics and the confidentiality of memory tags on which MTE relies. Today, we are introducing the culmination of this effort, Memory Integrity Enforcement, MIE, our comprehensive memory safety defense for Apple platforms. Memory Integrity Enforcement is built on the robust foundation provided by our secure memory allocators, coupled with enhanced memory tagging EMTE in synchronous mode and support by extensive tag confidentiality enforcement policies. MIE is built right into Apple hardware and software in all models of iPhone 17 and iPhone Air and offers unparalleled always-on memory safety protection for our key attack surfaces, including the kernel, while maintaining the power and performance that users expect. In addition, we're making EMTE available to all Apple developers in Xcode as part of the new enhanced security feature that we released earlier this year during WWDC.
Yeah, and now imagine me trying to explain that without getting myself in a mess. Basically, how often have I said the words buffer overflow or use after free error?
I haven't heard the second one, but I don't remember the second one, but I definitely remember the first one.
Well, basically, this makes those effectively evaporate. This is the most common types of bug that Apple keep having to patch every month. Well, with these protections in place, instead of the bug allowing the phone to be hacked, they will cause the app to crash. Apple can then patch the app. It's annoying, but your phone isn't hacked. You just had a crash.
Well, not just Apple, that they're having it for the developers. So the developers will be able to see
Right.
that they have a buffer overflow error. It'll crash before they can ever think to ship it to you.
Yes, it'll help them develop it in testing, but it also means that not just is Apple's iOS safe from these vulnerabilities, but if, say, Meta choose to tick the tick box when they compile WhatsApp or the Blue app, then a vulnerability in WhatsApp won't be usable by Pegasus and the like anymore. And that's something that has happened for real, right? WhatsApp was one of the ways that iPhones were hacked successfully about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay. So literally no more buffer overflow errors? We will never hear that again? That seems
The word never is a little too strong, and Apple don't say never. But in order to, if a baddie finds one, like already today, if you find one bug you can't hack iOS, you need to make a chain of bugs. And every chain, in order to get from where you are to where you need to be, you usually need 3 or 4 links in the chain. This makes every link in the chain more brittle and makes a bunch of currently possible chains impossible. So you're going to have to look harder for your chains, and any chain you find is way easier to break, way less likely to work reliably, to the point where instead of you being able to hack successfully, say, like if a bug gives 60% success rate, that's considered fantastic. If we attack 10 journalists and we only hack 6 of them, Pegasus considered that kind of thing a win. Well, now it might be you hack 100 and you get 2.
Wow. Wow,
It's big.
that is big. I had heard about this. I don't remember exactly who highlighted it, but I did hear of it, and I didn't catch exactly how significant that was. I mean, it sounded cool, but the full depth of what that can do, that's pretty wild.
It is. And I loved hearing the Apple security team finally get to tell us they've been working on this since, like, was it iOS 12 I see mentioned in places and stuff like that? Like, they've been at this for years.
Well, it's also got to be pretty hard considering they helped get the new spec out in 2022, and it's 2025. So
Right.
it took 3 years to implement it, even though they were at the heart of it.
Right. And the big thing is, it's actually quite easy to do these kind of things if you don't care about performance. If you're prepared to have everyone's iPhone go 10 times slower, this is easy.
Oh,
But Apple are not prepared to do that. They want it to be faster every year. Like the A19 is faster. So it's simultaneously faster while also giving these protections. So it's even faster than you think. And in the article, they describe that they've added a whole bunch of extra processing power whose only job is to do this integrity checking so that the CPU is free to keep doing the user's work and the GPU is free to keep doing the user's work. So there's physical space on that teeny tiny little A19 chip whose only job in life is to constantly defend memory.
So in the description that I read, they talked about state actors and these highly sophisticated attacks. Is that the main thing that's going to be protected by this, or is it going to be for regular humans who are going to have a better life?
Well, all sorts of bugs become way more difficult to exploit. And the effect that has is that cybercrime was kind of already not able to do this kind of attack on iPhones anyway. So they're definitely not able to. But now it's a case that if you're a lawyer or someone who has a reason that someone might want to know what's on their phone, you actually have a really good reason to buy an iPhone. So if you are an engineer in a company who has to travel to places you're not sure of, it is a real thing you can do now to buy a modern iPhone and be measurably more secure.
Huh. That is great news.
Yeah. Yeah, but I thought this audience might appreciate that. So the blog post, I honestly say it's worth the read. The other thing they describe is how they've tested it. From day one, they had a team within Apple whose only job was to hack this new system. So they weren't testing it afterwards. They had a red team and the blue team, so the defenders. They started work on the same day. And the team covered the hardware and software from day one. So on the first day, they were attacking themselves, and the hardware and software people were both working on it together.
That's an interesting way to go at it. I mean, I wonder if they wore like red shirts and blue shirts to work, to, for the competition, and like rang a bell when they won a point or something. You'd like to picture it
I
that way.
imagine there were, free pints at the barbecue or something to the winning team or whatever.
But like winning team of the week, winning team of the month.
Yeah. Yeah. A very good way to harness competition, right? We all have these little competitive instincts, so harness it to develop your product. It's very clever.
Yeah, that's great. Now, not everybody's talking about this. This hasn't gotten as much attention as you would hope, right?
Yeah, but the iPhone Air is really shiny.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Something to behold.
It is. Right. Now, we do still have some bugs, though. So there is some patch to be done. Google have released their September updates for Android. As per usual, if you have Android and you can patch, do patch. It's 84 bugs in total, and a bunch of them are actively exploited.
Okay.
So they're proper full-on 0 days. And if you can't patch your Android phone, I honestly think you probably want a new phone. Really,
That's a big pile.
A phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but what's in your
I
phone?
talk to a lot of people who just go, it's not like I bank on it or anything. You get email. You know what your email address is attached to? Every reset of everything you do when you aren't on that insecure phone.
Yeah. Yep. While everyone was busy patching, the people in Redmond were busy too. Patch Tuesday has been and gone. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but there's only 86 fixes and no 0 days.
That's good.
So a light month in Redmond.
Good. Yeah, that's good. You want those patches?
You should still patch though. Yes. The Sounds Institute, they were very funny on their Storm Center podcast. They were like, this is actually, by Microsoft standards, a really light one, but still patch. The host was like, don't let that tell you not to patch. Still patch.
I'm pretty pleased that most of my friends and family, I don't pick up their phone and see the red alert thing, on system settings or settings on the phone, So I think in general, people are doing pretty good in my surroundings. Maybe they know that I get really annoying if not.
It's the tyranny of the default. By default, since quite some time, a new iPhone will update itself automatically unless you tell it not to.
Oh, okay. Good. I do know I was getting complaints about, I think Apple did a couple of back-to-backs on the iPhone where it's like, oops, fix that. Whoop, fix it again, like within a day or two. And they were little cross looks, but they all did it, so.
And thankfully, that was not a very common thing, which I remember that there was a lot of crankiness. Yeah, it passed. Now, if you own a Samsung smartphone, A, Samsung will give you the Android update, so yay. B, Samsung also patched some bugs all of their own. So your Samsung device is going to get some extra patches for the little bits and bobs that Samsung tack on to the base Android system. So patch.
I'm not sure about the bleeping computer headline. Samsung patches actively exploited. Oh, you can read that sentence as two ways. Samsung patches actively exploited 0-day, or Samsung's patches actively exploited 0 days.
Yeah, it's a real 0-day, and they were told about it by the WhatsApp security
But it sounds
team
like
who
the
actually
patches
discovered it.
exploited a 0-day. The way it's written.
Yeah.
That's the way I read it at first, going, that doesn't sound right. I would have reworded that a little bit, but okay, now I get it.
That is a bit clumsy.
Yeah, but Samsung's doing really good about keeping
Now,
stuff up to date, so that's good news.
Yeah, and there was a time when they weren't, and they learned their lesson, and they've very much gone from a company I would steer people away from and say, go to Pixel, go to Pixel, go to Pixel. Now it's like Samsung or Pixel, Samsung or Pixel.
Good.
Yeah. TP-Link router owners, pay attention. There is a 0-day. We know it's real because it's being actively attacked. That's how we discovered it. TP-Link are aware. They are working frantically to patch it, but there isn't a patch yet. They say they have one developed for the European variants of their hardware, and they're almost ready with the US ones, and then they're doing the global market ones. No clarity on dates, but they say that they're making good progress and they're working very hard. In the meantime, you can protect yourself, because in order to exploit this vulnerability, two things have to be true. Your router has to be using the default admin username and password, and it has to have a feature called CWMP, which I don't know what it is, which is on by default, on. So you really should change your default password. And while you're at it, if you don't know what CWMP is, you don't need it. Turn it off.
CPE WAN Management Protocol. CPE is customer-owned network equipment.
Yeah, if you don't know what it is,
turn it off.
If you need that, you know what that is.
Okay. But hey, guess what?
And then,
if you have a router at all and it's TP-Link or anybody else, change the default admin password.
Yeah.
We don't need to narrow the focus on that one at all.
That's fair. The TP-Link people should bear in mind that there is a patch very nearly ready, or maybe very actually ready. Who knows?
But if you're
but there will be a firmware
not
update.
in the EU first, or the US first, and then the EU, and then the rest of the world.
Rest of world. Yeah, it's the other way around. There's Europe, America,
okay.
Rest of world. That's the order based on the press release. But the comments to Bleeping Computer. But yes, it is on the way. And then finally, to wrap up this segment in a happy note, which I don't often do, why do we patch? Well, there was, past tense, a nasty flaw in macOS Sequoia, which could have exposed keychain data, including passwords. But it was responsibly disclosed, patched by Apple back in macOS 15.3, and now we're hearing about it.
Oh, that's way back.
After it's been safely patched.
We're only finding out about it way after. Oh, nice.
Yeah. This is called responsible disclosure. This is how it should work. Patchy, patchy, patch, patch. The things in the release notes are the minimum of what is fixed. There may be other things fixed that you're going to learn about a month later, 6 months later, God knows when.
So,
patchy, patchy, patch.
Responsibly disclosed by person who found it. Okay.
Yes.
Maybe their higher bug bounties are having an effect. I know they improved them a little bit.
It certainly helps. Yeah. It's all about economics, right? If there's a lot more value in selling to cyber criminals, the amount of people who choose to do the wrong moral thing to make a buck is higher than if there's another option which may not pay as well, but allows your conscience to be clean, which is bug bounties.
Good. Oh, nice one.
Just the one worthy warning, unusually few. Plex has told everyone to reset their password because they lost all the hashes. Well, not all the hashes, some of the hashes, but they're not telling us how many. They're not telling us how they were hashed, but they were apparently securely hashed. Either way.
Allison's holding her hand up because Mr. Ed, listener and friend, sent me an email that he got from Plex telling him to reset his password because of the breach.
Yeah, I got
Listener Allison did not get a
one.
notification.
Huh. It's hardly got spammed.
I actually check my spam every
Really?
single day.
Wow.
It's a reminder at 7 a.m. I pop over into junk, I look at all of the titles and names, and I click them and I delete every day because Apple spam filtering is poo-poo. It's, I think it's gotten a little bit better lately. It's been a while, but for quite a while there, I would send an email like to my mother-in-law who is in my address book. Oh, sorry, I'm getting so excited. I hit my microphone. I'm writing an email to my mother-in-law who's in my address book, and she replies, and Apple would put it in junk. Like, are you serious? I didn't get, real spam in my inbox, but the false positives were killing me. So I had to, and actually Dave Hamilton gave the idea of just set a reminder. He does it every other day. I just do it every day. Boom, boom, boom. And if you do it every day, it's not bad. It's, 15 to 20. And here's a really scary thing. Lately, like the last couple of weeks, it's been really quiet. Today I had 3 spams or 6. So I don't know what's going on, but yeah, there's probably more stuff going to junk. So I don't think I missed a Plex thing. It is possible, but I guess I'll do that.
Well, they did say some of their users, maybe they actually know exactly who they leak.
Oh, okay. I thought you said all users, but you did not. You just said tells users.
Yeah, I corrected myself. I did say all, and then I said, well, some.
Okay. So, yeah.
They
It wouldn't
yeah.
hurt, right?
Yeah. No. And while you're in there, they offer 2FA. If you don't have it turned on, I would.
Yeah.
I did.
Not a bad idea.
Now, notable news then. Basically, I noticed a pattern in the stories in my RSS feed. The regulators on both sides of the Atlantic have been really busy bringing consequences to companies who flout the rules. So we won't dig into these details here, but it's interesting to see how many and where all this is happening, all in 2 weeks. Disney to pay $10 million to settle claims it collected kids' data on YouTube. That's the US Federal Trade Commission, and that's a settlement. So they've accepted they're guilty and have agreed to pay that much.
I think I remember that case. I remember you telling us about it. It's like, come on, Disney? Jeez.
Yeah. US sues robot toy maker for exposing children's data to Chinese devs. This is the DOJ suing a toy maker called Apator Technology. And this is for violations of the COPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Another one we definitely talked about when it happened is Power School. They're a software as a service company selling stuff for schools, and they majorly messed up and lost a lot of student data.
Yeah.
Well, the Texas Attorney General is not happy. They are suing because 880,000 Texans were involved. So the AG of Texas is like, well, that's reason enough for me to sue.
I think you just said 880.
So
you said 180,000, but your notes say 880,000.
I meant to say 880 because it is 880. Which is a small fraction of the 62 million in total. And it wasn't just Americans. Power School is quite big. France has fined Google €325 million for violating cookie laws. Oh, I have that story in twice.
Which flag would you like?
So the detail is that the French state... French, I think.
All right, that's the red, white, and blue one,
The
right?
French Data Protection Authority. Yeah. So first story, second brackets. Gotcha. The French Data Protection Authority were doing the work here. So that's why they get to keep their French flag. And it's to do with ads in Gmail that weren't properly consented to.
Wow.
And, actually, that's it. Well, I was going to say, that's enough to be getting on with. And then more in the good news column. Signal has added secure cloud backup to save and restore chats. So this is end-to-end encryption. So one of your dislikes of Signal versus Telegram is that when you onboard yourself on the new device, your chat history doesn't come with you because up until now that was kept on device only for your safety. Well, they've now added end-to-end encrypted backup, so they've surrendered zero privacy. But now when you onboard a new device, you get your chat history onto that new device.
So I also understood, maybe I'm wrong about this, that you can't just see your chat history infinitely back. It's got a limit in time.
Depends on how you tell it to back these things up. So their default is going to be not to keep stuff too long, but you can go in and change
I'm not talking
the
about
defaults.
backups.
If you would like to keep everything.
I'm not talking about backups. I'm just talking about I'm in Signal. I want to go back and say, when did Bart tell me about engine X,
Right. So by default, it cleans house so that your exposure isn't too big if something goes wrong because it defaults to privacy. But if you go into the settings and tell it, no, remember everything, go in and remember stuff.
That's good.
Yeah. The app is maturing nicely, and they're not surrendering privacy as they mature, which is
That's
nice.
good.
Google also get some thumbs up from me. They have added something I talked about on Let's Talk Photography. It's called C2PA. It's basically digitally signed content credentials. So this is something that Adobe and Microsoft are championing as a way you can't prove a negative. So if you have an image, you can't prove it wasn't blah-de-blah. But if you provide the mechanisms for reputable people to digitally sign the actual edits they made on the images and digitally tie those images to their source, then while you can't tell an image is definitely a fake, you can tell an image is definitely legitimate if it's had a C2PA signature all the way through its life. So it allows reputable media organizations to provably digitally sign real stuff. And it basically digitally signs it to say this is from the Associated Press. It was taken on an iPhone. It was cropped. It was shadows brightened. There was an AI thing added or not. And every step of the chain is signed by C2PA.
So that doesn't prove that it's got fake stuff in it, though, because with Google, you can go in and Adobe, you can go in and erase a person.
Yes, but that act is captured in the digital signature, or you break the digital signature, so it proves the provenance of the image.
Yes, that I agree with, but I think you said that this proves it's not faked. No, it proves whatever's happened.
What
it
I'm
proves
trying
the
to say
life
is,
of the photo, where it came from, and all the edits that have been on it, which is perfect.
Exactly. So if you are presented with something as being from the Associated Press that shows X, the C2PA signature will allow you to verify cryptographically that it really has that history.
Mm-hmm. Right. So
this is a big
deal. I don't
deal.
think we let you get to the end of the sentence. They've added that to the Pixel 10 camera. That's the important part.
Which you can use to manipulate images in very powerful ways. But the thing is, what Adobe has done to a photo, because Adobe has supported this for quite some time, you will know what has been done with the powerful Pixel 10, which may be capturing the fact that it was AI'd to be Jesus, or it may be capturing the fact that the only thing they did was rotate it slightly so the horizon was level.
So I'm trying to picture if Samsung puts C2PA on their phones and you use the 1x optical zoom, I'm using a bunch of air quotes here, to take a picture of the moon, what would it say?
It would say you used a Samsung device to capture a 1x picture of the moon.
That was completely faked in the long run.
The C2PA wouldn't capture that subtlety, but it would capture that fact, which everyone else knows what that means.
Right. Okay.
It's an interesting edge case, but it would capture the facts. I talk about it in great detail on LTP 125 because I think it's really important.
I remember.
And the fact that Microsoft and Adobe buying into this is big. Google buying into this is bigger because they sell lots and lots of phones. We just need Apple to buy in now.
Another reason people should listen to Let's Talk Photography. A more nerdy example than some of the others, but I really like those kind of cornerstone ones that you set something down and now you can refer back to it. My other favorite, oh shoot, I had it in my little pea brain and it just slipped out. It'll come back to me later. I'll blurt it out at an inappropriate moment when I remember what the other one was.
Or after we'd done
Oh,
recording.
no, I know what it was. It was about, was it large language models? It was about modeling.
How trading works and copyright?
It was...
because I don't remember
No.
anything.
I know what it was. It was talking about how when you start training a model, the model is a certain size. It has a certain number of parameters, and that physical, or that the space that takes up on disk is a certain size. And after you train it, it's the same size. It didn't get any bigger because now it knows some stuff. And that was a fascinating... I don't remember which episode it was, so go back and listen to all, however many there are, 140 episodes, and find it, because it was really good.
Yeah, if you got the same number of bits of information, they just mean something now. It's like your brain doesn't get bigger when you learn stuff. Your neurons just rearrange themselves.
Who was it? It was just on my show. Boy, my memory's poor. Talked about how no matter how many contacts they keep... Oh, it was in one of the Tiny Mac tips. No matter how many contacts they keep in their contacts database, their phone doesn't get any heavier. Was that Mike Price? No. Now I'm botching it up.
No, I can't remember who it was, but it was on the last show, and I did chuckle at that.
I mean, it feels like it's that big, right?
Right. Okay, we have a fire extinguisher for the No Silicastaways. If one of our No Silicastaways also runs a big cloud hosting provider...
Okay, sorry.
So, if one of our No Silicastaways happens to run a cloud hosting service, the fire extinguisher is not for you, but for all the other No Silicastaways, the fire extinguisher is for you. There is another speculative execution bug. This one is extremely meaningful for anyone doing shared hosting. The effect is that a 4 kilobyte, which is enough for a disk encryption key, can be leaked in 128 seconds. That's not a lot of time. Throw in the fact that the OS will get in your way with a little bit of address-based layout randomization. It's probably 13 minutes on a real Linux kernel with 128 seconds for the speculative execution bit. But 13 minutes to break a full disk encryption, it should be the age of the universe. So this is bad. However, the Linux kernel has been patched, and the researchers say that the mitigation has minimal performance impact in common workloads. So if you run a server farm, patch, because VMscape is the name of this vulnerability, is a very nasty attack on both AMD and Intel CPUs.
Okay.
And for us home users, irrelevant, because we don't have virtual machines running that we sell hosting on to bad guys. So even if we are running VMware, we're running our own VMs. So it's us attacking us. Well, if you're going to attack yourself, why bother with a VM? Just run a script yourself and attack yourself. Why waste your time?
Okay.
We also had another one of those very near misses like we did with that nasty SSH bug a few years ago. Hackers successfully exploited a developer who does JavaScript stuff for NPM, who is so popular and who looks after such important code that they succeeded so well they were immediately stopped. Basically, they hacked literally millions of... something downloaded millions of times a day. And so NPM noticed, and they rolled it back, so the blast radius here was tiny. It was really limited in time and locked down really quickly. But if this had been a more subtle success, this would have been a really big deal.
People who don't know what NPM is.
It is a repository of open source JavaScript code. So if you're writing JavaScript stuff, you don't want to write it all yourself because you probably will make more mistakes than the open source community. But you also want to be careful bringing in stuff from the open source community, because what attackers have started to do is to hack developers. So these people who give out of the goodness of their heart to the whole community are now being targeted with phishing to take over the open source projects they have commit rights on,
okay.
and to put malware into those open source projects. And they succeeded with a very convincing targeted phishing attempt to get a developer who looks after a really popular package called Chalk. I use it all the time because it does colorful terminal stuff really easy in JavaScript.
Okay.
It's like so cool when you write your own scripts that you can make errors go bright red on the terminal. It's very helpful. And that was successfully hacked. But the way I see it is that the reason this succeeds is because people have a habit of having their node NPM stuff auto-update itself without them doing anything, which means that when attackers successfully hack a developer, you hack yourself. I've been saying for a long time, don't have it automatically update. Update your stuff yourself with intention once a month or whatever. The chances of you updating a vulnerable library in the very short window before NPM's very impressive safety features kick in is tiny. But if you're auto-updating all the time, chances are quite high. So I would say, this is really nerdy. If this is only for our developer people who know what NPM is, right? Everyone else can tune out for 30 seconds. You need to commit both package.json and package-lock.json to Git always. And when you're deploying your own code, you use npm CI for a clean install, which will read from the lock file, not npm install, which will auto-upgrade every package. Then, at your choice, you will run npm outdated to tell you how far your lock file is behind the latest. And then you will run npm upgrade to bring your lock file in line with the latest. And then you will have jumped forward at your control, not continuously always. And then the chances of you getting hit by this in the short window between attack and lockdown is very small.
I don't remember you teaching us that exact process in Programming by Stealth. Did you?
Probably not, for the very simple reason that when we did that section, it was 3 or 4 years ago when we were in a more innocent time.
Okay, it might be good for a little update tidbit section.
It might be, and we might have to, because there's a piece of JavaScript code that uses a whole bunch of JavaScript stuff from NPM that I use every single 2 weeks to write these show notes, which has stopped working because Cloudflare are protecting websites from AI, and I'm a victim. I may have to update some of my code, and instead of going silent for Programming by Stealth, I think I will share my story.
Oh, okay.
What I'm having to update, and that will be the perfect hook for what we learned about NPM was innocent. Here's the modern, not so innocent take.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. We have been on our summer vacation that we've officially decided to take every year, which we accidentally have taken every year.
Yeah. And I learned that actually there's Astronomy Caster, a great podcast, and they tell you in advance, we will be taking a summer hiatus. And
I think we actually remembered this year for the first time.
We did. Yes, we did. So yes, we are on our way back. I already have 2 episodes, 1 quarter written.
Great.
And then I'm afraid I think I'm going to have to do this JavaScript fix because these show notes now take me twice as long to write because my automation has gone.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And it affects Let's Talk Apple as well. And there's a lot of links in those show notes. Oh my God.
Oh, no, this isn't your little markdown link. Or your
it's the one
that you wrote
cleverly
for me that I've been using for like 12 years?
Not that one. That's the naive one that just converts the link. I have a more powerful one that fetches the web page, grabs the title of the article from the H1 tag and uses that as the link text. So you'll notice that my link text will have the full article headline, France slaps Google with blah-de-blah fine. I don't manually put that text in. I have a JavaScript that fetches the web page, parses it, finds the H1 tag, pulls out the full text, and creates the markdown link. So I
I
get
might be able to
the
help
full
you
text.
because I have done exactly that, but I did it, I think it's with Keyboard Maestro.
There's a lot of smarts in my implementation. You may be able
Yeah,
to help guide
it's
me.
actually done in AppleScript.
Please
Yeah.
share. I don't know how much of it I can merge into my code
Yeah.
base, but it is
But,
certainly
yeah,
interesting to see. And yours
I
hasn't
don't know any
broken.
JavaScript, and it's working. Yeah, I use that for my show notes. That's why I have the title and the link.
Yeah, see, my JavaScript is very honest and doesn't use the user agent Safari. It tells it, hey, I'm a script. And that honesty has never bitten me before because I don't send a lot of requests. I'm not like a bot crawling 500 requests a minute. But the threshold of what is considered too much crawling has gone to near zero. And so I get about 5 links from Bleeping Computer and then I get to go pound sand.
Yeah, mine might be a little bit extra tailored because I use it for my website.
Yeah, like I said, there may be enough in yours to get me to the point where the input to mine works again. And because I have a lot of brains in there, because a lot of people put really weird titles that have like vertical pipes in the name of the website or a bunch of keywords hiding away in the title and stuff for SEO. And so I have a lot of extra brains in there to sanitize the text. But it all starts with fetching the page.
Okay.
And right now the fetchy bit is broke.
Well, this should be interesting.
Yeah. Yes. Right. I have an interesting insight. I'm going to be very quick on this because you and I have another secret recording to do and it's getting late. So this is a link to an article on Bleeping Computer. 3/4 of it are a very insightful overview of the state of play in browser-based security at the moment. And the last quarter is an ad. It's a sponsored post. So, bearing in mind it's a sponsored post, if you are interested in the state of play for protecting browsers, have a read. It will explain the problems perfectly. Then you can stop reading because you're not, unless you're the kind of person who makes really expensive buying decisions for large corporations, the last quarter where they're selling you a solution is not for you.
But maybe it is.
Maybe it is.
Hey, can I do the...
If you're that one No Silicast away running a hosting company.
Right. Can I do the first palette cleanser? And I've actually added a second one that I'll do after yours.
Ooh, cool.
All right. Yelp via Mastodon posted to Bart and me a documentary about Python. Now, there cannot possibly be anything more boring than a documentary. I don't like documentaries to start with. You love documentaries, but I don't like them to start with. Yeah. And a documentary about how a programming language got started. That description I was like, oh, Yelp, you're killing me. That's going to be oh, wait, this is really interesting. What I love about this documentary is it's extremely playful, which matches the philosophy of Guido, the guy that started Python. So the whole thing has got like really funny graphics going by, and you're visually entertained while you're listening to these people, and they're just fun, warm people, and it was delightful. I loved every minute of it. It was really, really good. So there's a link in the show notes to Python, the documentary on YouTube.
I am 45 minutes in because normally myself and the better half, when we have dinner, we watch like Star Trek or something. And I said, really sorry, love, but Alison says there's a documentary that's so good that even she likes it. And we're recording tomorrow and I want to be able to say nice things because the listener's cool. So we have homework. We're watching this documentary. And we started watching it, and I got very raised eyebrow, proper Spock level raised eyebrow here when I suggested this. But anyway, he went with it. We're 45 minutes in, we were finished dinner, and I said, so do I continue watching on my own, or do we pause this and pick it up tomorrow? And he went, oh no, pause, this is great.
Oh, wow. When you said 45 minutes in, I was like, Bart, it's only like a half an hour. It isn't, it's an hour and a half.
No.
I just freaking love this thing. I had no idea it was this long. Maybe I didn't finish. I better go back and check. I think I did, though.
Yes. Right, my palette cleanser then. I love the photography site Glass, and one of the people I discovered on that site is a travel photographer who has a blog where he writes really long articles, and they're beautifully illustrated by his photographs. So he posts like his 5 or 6 best photographs from a trip to Africa on Glass,
that's who you've
and
been
they're
sending
amazing.
me about Africa.
And then you,
yeah, those are great.
Yes, and then you read his blog post, and it's like 50 amazing photographs, and what a story. Well, it's not just me and Alison who like this guy's work. Apple do too. 2 of his photographs have been chosen to be immersive experiences in the Vision Pro.
Oh, cool. That's neat.
Yeah. So that gives me an excuse to link to his blog and his profile on Glass so more people can get to enjoy Florian Kriechenbaumer. Sounds distinctly German.
Maybe Kriechenbaumer.
Cherry treer.
Kriechenbaumer?
A kriek is a cherry, a baum is a tree, so I think he's a cherry tree farmer, is what the German etymology is, as best as I can tell. And his first name is Florian.
Very good, very good.
It's more straightforward.
Well, my palette cleanser, which Bart hasn't seen yet, Gary Rosenzweig has been a longtime jewel of knowledge for the Mac. He's been around absolutely forever. And he's got the MacMost podcast and blog. And I mean, I've known this guy since I started podcasting. He's just published a single page where you can see every version of macOS back to Lion and which Macs can run on each OS. It's beautifully done with the logos, the icons, and so it's just a real nice place to go look it up. So there's a link in the show notes to macmost.com.
That's up there with your diagram of all of Apple's settings. It's just wonderful nerdiness.
I liked it. Yeah, Gary's the best. He's a really great guy. All right, we did it, Bart.
Excellent. We did it indeed, and of course, we can't end without saying, remember folks, stay patched so you stay secure.
Well, that is going to wind us up for this week. Did you know you can email me at allison@podfeet.com anytime you like? If you have a question or suggestion, just send it on over. Where are all those dumb questions? We even have a jingle for dumb questions. I want some dumb questions. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com. You can follow me on Mastodon at podfeet.com/Mastodon, where you can meet people like Teg. That's where I met him. Found him on Mastodon. If you want to listen to the podcast on YouTube like all the cool kids, you can go to podfeet.com/YouTube. If you want to join the conversation, you can join our Slack community at podfeet.com/Slack, where you can talk to me and all the other lovely No Silicastaways, including the lovely Bill Reveal that I mentioned so many times. You can support the show at podfeet.com/Patreon, like Troy, Marty, Ryan, Zohar, John, and Richard do. And you could, if you don't want to do that, you can give me a one-time donation at podfeet.com/donate with Apple Pay or any credit card without a login. Or you can use PayPal if you like at podfeet.com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, I'm not sure if there's a live show this next weekend or not. There may not be. I'm not sure yet. But in any case, when you can, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic No Silicastaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed.